Welcome, everyone, to the True Stories in Tech podcast, life-changing conversations in the areas of technology, business, and belonging. My name is Eric Klaus with Partner Source Solutions. I'm joined today with our regular team, Brian Enuma, President of Strategic Systems Group, Eddie Bader, COO of Aegis Innovators, Manish Bardia, President of Think AI Consulting, and our special guest today, Danny Brown, President of App Meetup. Danny, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm very happy to be part of the podcast today.
We're excited to have you here. So why don't we just go ahead and dive in? The first thing we usually ask is just tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get where you are today?
That's a great question. Let's say I started my career in the military, so I had a good opportunity to serve my country. Very happy about that. From there, I was able to go to Howard University on a scholarship, get a master's degree as well at Ball State University on a full ride scholarship. So very fortunate, everything's been paid for. Very excited about that. My first job was with IBM right out of graduate school. And there's where I met my wife. So she was actually working for IBM here in Austin, Texas. I was working for IBM in Chicago. And we actually met at a tech conference in San Diego. So amongst the thousands of IBMers there were only a handful of women. I was lucky to be able to swoop one up. From there, we were very fortunate enough to begin a business as a value-added reseller as well as a managed service provider along the way. Had 3 different offices throughout the United States, 13 full-time employees, not including ourselves. And eventually, my wife, after our second child, decided she was done running an IT company. So she sold the business. From there, I went to work for Microsoft's largest cloud distributor in Canada. And I ran their global practice, the company called SureWeb, which I'm very happy with what we were able to do over the 3 years. And I decided to start my own company, App Meetup. And that's where I'm at today. Along the way, I was very fortunate to be able to, with 3 other Iamcp members, to found a nonprofit called the BCPA, the Black Channel Partner Alliance. And with the Black Channel Partner Alliance, our goal is aggressive. It is to help 100 businesses over the next 3 years, generate over $100 million of additional revenue, create 800 net new tech jobs, and perform 1,000 digital transformation projects in inner cities amongst all over the U.S. So very happy about that. And of course, love you guys to learn a little bit more about App Meetup, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on something really fast there, but I would love to understand. You said you served your country. What'd you do?
So when I was in high school, I actually was accepted to the Naval Academy. But I wanted to, as you guys know, there's a lot of stuff going on back in 91. We're starting to get a lot of attention in the Middle East. And I wanted to figure out what can I do to serve my country now. And so instead of going to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, I decided to enlist into the Army. And when I enlisted in the Army, they said, hey, look, you take this test called the ASVAB test. And I scored off the charts. They said, hey, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I'm an engineer. And how long is the engineering school? And they said, well, that's going to be about 9 to 12 months, depending on which specialty you want to go in. I said, well, are there any girls there? And I'm sorry to say this. They said, no, there's no girls. Where are all the girls at? They said, nursing school. I said, great, send me to nursing school. And so I went to Fort Sam Houston down in San Antonio, Texas. So instead of doing engineering, I went to go down with the nurses was at. So that's how I got all involved. And when the first Gulf War broke out and my unit was being deployed overseas, we had 3 waves of deployment, and our job was to set up field hospitals out in the desert. And they said, look, there's a handful of you guys. You're very intelligent, very smart. Just go to college. Don't worry about anything else. Just go to college. So I was one of the few that did not have to go fight overseas because I was told to go straight to school. So that's exactly what I did. I went and completed my degree at Howard University, and I'm very happy about that.
Wow, fantastic. That's pretty amazing. So. And all from deciding to start off by chasing the girls.
Yes, unfortunately.
Hey, it's all worked out for you. So obviously, there was there was a right path for you, and you found it.
There you go. I do have to admit, it is one of the things in my career where I look back and I laugh all about it. It is very historical. When people tell me, well, how did you get into XYZ? Well, if you want to know the truth, there you go. 18-year-old kid didn't know what to do with his life, and except for try to chase girls.
All right. Well, we know you through Iamcp. So then my next question is, how did you find out about Iamcp? How did you end up getting involved in Iamcp?
That's a great question, Eric. There's a couple of ways that came across that I can think of. One is when we had our own business and we started getting into a relationship with Microsoft at that time, and they mentioned Iamcp. That was the very first time. Second time is when I ran the global channel practice with SureWeb, is we signed up to be sponsors with Iamcp as a global sponsor and a national sponsor. And from there on, I just fell in love with the mission, with the goal. And I've been volunteering ever since. And I would tell you that each year that has gone by that I've been volunteering, more and more responsibilities have been put on my shoulders. And every time more responsibilities get put on my shoulders, I'm very excited about it because I love the fact that we're helping to build up our community. And when I say our community, I'm talking about the fellow Iamcp members who own their business, who own their practices, and we're actually helping each other to essentially grow each other's businesses. And so I'm very excited about that.
So Danny, you went from military to engineering to sales. And of course, you mentioned that you are not looking to get into the Harvard or into sales, but did you think about sales or it just happened? So tell us a little bit on, first let's go back to your Harvard thing. What are a few things which you found interesting about Harvard? Because I have not been to Harvard.
Yes, that's a great question, Manish. I appreciate that. The great thing about going to an HBCU, and I'm actually from Seattle, Washington. So my twin brother was recruited to Howard University. He was recruited on a tennis scholarship. My twin brother was a really good tennis player. And at that time, I was exploring. Where would I like to go? What would I like to do? And ultimately, my brother and I, being identical twins, we just had this really close bond. And I wanted to be near him. I wanted to be where he was at. And ultimately, I just walked to campus with him one day, and I just went to the registrar's office and said, I'd like to go to school here. And they looked at my SAT scores and everything else and said, okay, you can go to school here next year. I want to go to school here. School starts next week. So that was an interesting conversation. One thing led to another. I was part of the engineering program at Howard University. Very excited about that. So that was one of the things I've heard about Howard. We were recruited about Howard. When you want to go to the HBCU of choice, which is what they call the Mecca, the Stanford University of HBCUs, Howard was listed near the top, or it was the top, and that was the only place I could consider going. And that's exactly how I ended up at Howard University to be with my twin brother. Now, while we were at Howard, we had a competition. My brother and I are very competitive. And we said whoever had the lower GPA had to do the other person's laundry, which is kind of funny. So for 3.5 years, I did my brother's laundry because I was doing a double major in physics and mechanical engineering, and I was doing about 28 credits a semester. Then he said, look, Danny, it's not fair. I'm only doing a business degree. You're doing double degree. I'm like, look, a challenge is a challenge. We're going to make it happen. And so my last year, I finished with my last quarter, I had a 4.0, and he had like a 3.8. I got 1B or something like that. And I tell you what, I wore 4 or 5 shirts a day. I put something I didn't like. I took it off, threw it in the laundry bin to make sure he would do the laundry. And from this day forth, we've always been competitive, always been competitive. We have a podcast together called Twins Talk It Up. We compete to see who's the better speaker. We see who attends more road shows, who attends more conferences, who speaks at more events. We've been competing from day one, the day we were born, all the way up to now.
Awesome. And who is the elder one between you two?
He's the better one, but I will still keep fighting with him, though. He's the better one, that's for sure.
Got it. Okay, so that we talked about Harvard. Now you did engineering, then where did you go and how did you come to the sales?
Yeah, thank you very much. So when I was at Howard, I went from Howard to Ball State University in Indiana with a full ride scholarship. I was recruited by IBM. And IBM has this platform. They have a hardware series and then they have a software series. I actually ran the X series as a sales engineer. I knew nothing about sales. All I knew is I was very technical. I like to do installations. If you have a stand, you have a server, you need to install it. That's my job. I would do it all day long. But one thing I found out is that as a sales engineer, I actually had to get in front of customers and speak to them. That was new. And I would call my twin brother up and say, Dave, what do I need to do? You're used to being in front of people. What do I do? How do I do it? And one thing came to another, I was doing a better job than account executives. So they gave me my territory to be an SE and account executive at the same time. And at that moment is when I realized I could take very technical terms, simplify it in a way to where the average business owner could accept and understand it and was willing to move forward with our solution. And at that time, it was one of the times where sales engineers, they wanted to be technical. Speeds and feeds is all they talked about. And I realized, look, the end user customer does not understand that. What do they understand? My data is here, something goes wrong, it is stored in this location, and it comes back. Just that simple, keeping it that simple, keeping it that easy was something where I was very able to articulate in a nice way. And that's actually how I transitioned from being a pure tech all the way over to sales.
So interesting, you were in technical and you knew enough, not much on sales, and just thinking about simple talk led to the sales. And
Yep.
And I have found that to be very counter thinking kind of thing. Like you never think that it will be so simple, right? Like you always think you have to do complicated conversation to sell, but it's actually simple conversation to sell.
Exactly. And one of the great things about transitioning to a sales mentality is that everybody wants to learn something and they want to make sure that when they learn, they don't feel stupid. And one of the things I've realized is to look at people when I speak with them. And when I look at them, I can tell how much can this individual grasp. Am I being too technical? I'm not being technical enough. Yeah. And then from there, I kind of let their body language, their eye movements guide me when I speak to them. And it's always worked out throughout my career. So very happy about that aspect.
Yeah. So where did you learn all the body language or the, what do you say, the response monitoring thing?
Well, my twin brother is a public speaker. He has a public speaking company. And he learned his from a group of individuals that did a program similar to a Toastmasters back in the day. It was a similar program. They actually have this group called the Elite Speakers Group that he's a member of. And within this group, they do best practices. They teach each other about looking at the psychology of public speaking, your voice and how you project your voice. It's not just speaking. It's how you project your voice. It's how you stand up straight. There's a lot of methodology and tools. And then from there, it was practice, 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 practice. And that's one of the things he made me do. Danny, I want you to run for Mr. School of Engineering. I want you to run for the president of NSBE, which is National Society of Black Engineers. I want you to run for president of American Society of Mechanical Engineers. So every step along my way, my twin brother pushed me to run to be the officer, either the president or the head of the group or something. So every year I ran for that, even to the point when I won Mr. School of Engineering, I actually auditioned to win the Mr. Howard University, which is basically you represent the whole school, which is really fun. And it's interesting. It's one of the things where I really enjoy. I really appreciate being pushed. I love challenges. And year after year, he continues to keep pushing me. Danny, I want you to be an MC at a cloud conference was one of the things. I said, okay, great. I talked to Sherb. Hey, Sherb, I want to be the MC for the whole conference. I'm going to run it for you. And okay, what's the next challenge? Danny, I want you to run the conference as the main speaker. So we keep pushing each other. And one thing leads to another. It's all about repetition. So every time I speak or every time I get a chance to talk to people, I'm always taking the same basic foundations that I've learned and I'm continuing to add on to it. That's it.
That is awesome. I think, as you mentioned, the Toastmaster has been great help for me also. When I was going from technical role to project management, that's what I did. And it did teach me a lot of things. And in fact, in my book, I write about that, that in Toastmaster, I learned more about project management than public speaking. I mean, of course I learned, but in the 1 hour, they do so much.
Yeah.
Is unbelievable. I have never seen such a tight execution. And Eddie, if you remember, right, when we were having at SoCal, the meeting ran over. I told Eddie, I know how it can be done fast, and Toastmaster does it like in 1 hour. They will count seconds. There will be timer. We'll be like, okay, you are 10 seconds over.
All right.
So that's you did a great job with it too.
Yeah, I mean, great learning there, Danny. Thanks for sharing all this. Yeah.
So what's the current challenge, Danny, from your brother?
The current challenge at this moment is to finish up a book. So we have a podcast called Twins Tuck It Up podcast. We also have a book that we're finishing writing at this moment called Identically Opposite. So even though we're both identical twins, we're actually a little bit different from each other. He's more of the business individual. He had a business background. I have a technical background. I think in a logical format. So when you tell me things, I just need to know step by step, what does it look like, how it's going to work, and I can fill in the blanks. He's an individual that likes to understand everything, how it works. He likes to put a process in place as if I'm his business. I'm like, look, I'm your identical twin brother. I'm not your business. You can't run me like a company. But that's exactly what he does, right? But yeah, right now, the fun thing is that we are finishing up a book. There's actually two books that we're finishing up. One is our public speaking book, and the second one is growing up biracial. What was it like growing up as a Asian and African American at the same time? What was it like at the house? What was it like in the community? And what was it like traveling all over the world? Because my father was also in the military. And I would tell you that those are two fun projects. He's doing most of the work. I would say more like 70-30 split. But outside of that, it's something that we enjoy doing.
That's really cool. Now, you may or may not know, but you're in the presence of 3 authors on this podcast as well.
Nice. I heard Manish talk about his book. That's amazing. I'll have to make sure I'll read your books and give you great ratings.
Thank you.
Knowing the content of your character, I know the books are going to be awesome. Yes, I know Eric already had some books written already.
Yeah. Brian and I co-wrote ours, so we've got 3 that went on to become Amazon bestsellers. So
you're still specializing in dynamics, right, Eric?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. Danny, you have a sales and marketing background. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Every so often, Eric and I have some conversations about when does marketing end, when does sales begin, and his response is basically all the same. Do you have a perspective of sales and marketing, and if there's a difference?
I believe that people like to say there's a blurry line between the two, but there is actually a big difference between sales and marketing. Not everyone who does sales can do marketing, and not everyone who can do marketing can do sales. The problem with sales, I will tell you this right now, customers do not like being sold to. What they do like is the fact that you can ask open-ended questions and understand their problems, that you can actually understand their pain points, you get them, and you can lead them down a certain path to where they can see the end of the light. What you need marketing for is to be able to visualize and articulate in a way where the end user customer, your prospect, can understand it. That's why I say that it's a blurry line and it's a little bit different. There's no way you're going to ask a salesperson, hey, I need you to go create marketing materials, create a PDF, a document, PowerPoint, make it look nice, send it to the customer so they can understand it. Sorry, I'm good with the gift of gab. I'm not a creative person. Whereas marketing understands how the individual thinks, where they live, what they want to see, how they want to see it, how they consume it, and what colors and diagrams will move them emotionally. Because if you can move a person emotionally, you can bridge the gap of trust. If you bridge the gap to trust, you don't have to have 10,000 meetings before the person says, I think I know who you are. I think I like you. You understand my pain points. Can I buy from you? And so it goes hand in hand. It's not necessarily the same thing, but it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, to be fair, my contention is that it's one process, rather than distinct segments. I think that you might, to your point, Danny, you might have different people who might have stronger skill sets in different areas. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it from the customer's perspective, they're all on one journey.
Yep.
So I think that's the difference there. They don't view it necessarily as, oh, I'm in the marketing process now I'm in the sales process. I'm in the buying process. How am I going to get what I need? Yep. So yeah,
that's a good point, Eric. We actually have my twin brother and I, with his public speaking company, he has a sales track, and in his sales track, he actually calls the sales process, and he breaks it down to 5 steps. And the reason why he does that is because along the way, if something doesn't give you the desired outcome you want, think about the and or chart, right? It's either if or that, and or this. And then it actually tells you exactly where you failed. or where you're succeeding and what you need to do next. That was in collaboration with marketing. So at the end user, they don't really know when the sales came in, where the sales ops is going, where's the marketing going, even though these are 3 different teams. At the end of the day, all he or she cares about is that, did you excite me? Did you pique my interest? Did you help me to think about the fact that you just bothered me when you called me, but I'm willing to spend 5 minutes with you because you intrigued me. And now I'm going to give you 10 more minutes because you're asking great open-ended questions and you're leading me down this journey. It's all about telling that story, making the customer go down the journey with you to where they can together see this great outcome. So I would agree with you on that aspect, Eric, that you don't tell a customer on the phone, okay, now let me bring in my marketing person. Oh, now let me bring in my sales ops person. They don't have time for that. What they want to know is, like, look, are you going to take me through this journey that you keep telling me great things about? And will I be successful when I get to the end of the journey? So that's kind of how the customer sees it. But on our side of the house, there's a lot of moving pieces, of course.
I have a perspective as well, and this maybe comes from our own experience internally. It seems like marketing is maybe somewhat focused on finding people to talk to, and then have them come to us and schedule an appointment to talk. And maybe once we have that, then the sales process takes over, and it's up to a salesperson. Sometimes it's us to go through that journey. And I agree with you that the process of asking questions is more important than selling or talking about the product or service. So I agree with you there. You mentioned growing up biracial. We've had some conversations about bias and so forth in our podcasts. So as you were growing up, did you experience bias as a result of being biracial?
That's a great question, Ryan. I would tell you, every step of my journey, I've experienced it, even from my own people. So I was born in Korea. I lived there for 6 years, speak the language, read and write the language. But the way I speak is at a non-honorific level. So in certain Asian cultures, you can tell just by listening to the conversation, you can tell the relationship the 2 people who are speaking have with each other. Whether one person is superior and the other person is inferior, whether it's a husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, best friends or not best friends, mother, child, you can tell if you just listen just a few minutes, you can see their relationship. Well, the way I speak to my mother is I speak street, which is the slang that you learn when you're with all your other friends. And so when I'm with my mother in public and I speak to her, it is very embarrassing. So it was one of the things where I'm not allowed to talk to her in public, period. That's been the rule of the thumb. And the people that local in Korea, I would tell you, I was not wanted or felt accepted growing up, living in an Asian country. And it was very difficult. Moving back to America, growing up in the inner city communities was also difficult. I would tell you, going to Howard University was one of the best things I've ever done. All black school, very difficult. At Howard is when I learned there was different levels of blackness. All right, are you African, which is the highest level? Like, you from Africa? Are you from the Caribbean? And then you keep going up a little bit closer. Then, okay, if you're African American in America, but you're 100% African American, then if you're mixed or biracial, and then if you're dark skinned all the way up to light skin. And let's just say at Howard University, my twin brother and I were at the minority of all the groups. And if we didn't run for office, I would tell you it probably would have been the worst experience of my life as well. So all along my ways, everywhere I've gone has always been a difficult process. And as you probably are aware of, we've always had to do twice as much, be 10 times better in order to make sure that we either get promoted or that we keep our positions intact. And that was one of the things I've had to learn throughout my career, throughout my life. And I appreciate that. I don't take that as a negative thing. I've always taken it as a positive thing. I worked twice as hard at school. I was able to get the full-ed scholarship. I worked twice as hard at work. I worked twice as hard in my community. And because of each step along the way, it just developed my character and developed who I am. And I'm very appreciative. I give back to the communities all day long. I've been volunteering in the nonprofit communities. I've been volunteering in inner city communities probably for the last 15 years straight. So I'm very excited about that.
Well, it's all great stories. Thank you. Maybe one last question about your podcast. Twins Talk It Up. So what is the general mission of the podcast?
That's a great question, Brian. So Twins Talk It Up is more about leadership, entrepreneurship, and really what we call branding. So everyone that comes to a Twins Talk It Up podcast, they're a leader in their field. They're either a CLO executive, VP, director, or they're a business owner. And what we do is we try to gather up insights about their business, about their process, and share it with our community. Because as you know, you grow faster when you can learn from other people. You grow faster when you can have mentors. You grow faster when you read books and then apply it in real life. And sometimes the very successful individuals who are running organizations, running corporations, running big businesses, or even small businesses, they have some insights that they can share with our audience. And if somebody in the audience can grab that insight and implement it and run with it, and it can help them to be more successful, that's what we really appreciate. That's what we really go after. And during the podcast, we do have to say that this is Danny speaking or this is David, because not only do we look alike, we actually sound alike. And Eddie can tell you that from the BCPA Rise conference that we had, we both looked alike and we both sound alike.
That is a true story. When that event happened and I saw your brother on there, I'm like, why did Danny record himself introducing himself on this event? I was like, that I'm gonna have to talk to him about that. Is that because the contingency, he thought the internet might go out or something, and then I realized that's his brother. I'm like, you gotta be paying close attention. But you guys sound exactly the same. I mean, I'm sure there's some nuances if you spend a lot of time, but it's hard for a novice. But yeah, that's a true story. We were looking at it. I know I wasn't the only one thinking that too, because I talked to somebody else. I'm like, is Danny introducing himself? What's going on here?
Yeah, one of my friends was like, well, they're a friend of mine now since the conference, but before that, they said, look, why did you change your name to David and change your shirt and your jacket? No, there's two of us. He was really confused, but we thought it was a good surprise.
I think that calls for a episode in your podcast or some kind of video where you don't say, here is my twin brother. You act as if you're two people, and the actual magic is there.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. Maybe he'll be sick for one of the podcasts, and I'll just act like I'm him and myself at the same time.
That's awesome. So I have a interesting thing. I don't know if you know who Rami Malek is, but he played Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody, right? So he has a twin brother. Now he was on a talk show and he talked about how they got into trouble by taking each other's place sometimes. He actually, his brother was studying at UCLA, asked him to do something for him, like an exam. He had to do some kind of speech to be able to pass this class. He did it, passed perfectly, and it went off without a hitch. And I'm wondering, between you and David, have you ever experienced anything like that? Have you guys filled in for each other at different times?
Well, let's just say my twin brother, he was a goody two-shoe growing up. So whenever we were in public or in any situation and people couldn't tell us apart, they said, give it a couple minutes. And when somebody act up, they said, that's Danny right there. That's the bad boy. And so growing up, he was always in the advanced classes, the AP courses and AP classes in high school. And I would always say, Dave, hey, why don't you take this class for me? You're really good at it. I mean, your background, your English is phenomenal, history and everything else. No, Danny, I might get caught. So he was always he followed every rule. I mean, he would not break any rule. Even writing on paper, just taking notes, he made sure everything was dotted and crossed. Like, really? No one's going to look, and it had to be perfect notes, eligible, and just all of it had to be perfect. Me, you look at it, you're thinking, you're going to be a doctor or an engineer because I can't read a thing you just wrote. So that's kind of the difference. But no, we've never been in a situation where we could get in trouble that way because he just never would do it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very cool. So I wanted to ask you more about BCPA and how that all came to fruition. So maybe if you could take I know you talked about it a little bit, but you just had this launch party last month, which was fantastic. Can you talk about what cohort looks like, what they can expect through this process, and who are you looking for? You know, what kind of partners are you looking for to get involved with this, either being part of the cohort or to help lead you, or not lead you, but to help contribute to this effort?
So I appreciate that question, Eddie. First of all, everyone can be involved. You don't have to be African American or of African descent. We are looking for mentors, people who are successful business leaders, people who have a specialty that one of our cohorts would love to excel in. If you have time, you have money, or you have influence, we could use your help. And it's not just about being African American. A good example is one of our sponsors decided to be a mentor. They went from a MSP organization to being a very large Microsoft vendor, not only at Microsoft, but at other big global companies. And their company has grown really fast over the last 10 years. And they've decided that they would love to mentor and help other organizations if they would like to learn their way. So that's one way that you can accept being a mentor. Second way is if you have a background as an independent software vendor, staffing or recruiting, and lastly, if you're a managed service provider, these are the three groups that we're looking for. We have 3 different accelerated programs. And in each of these programs, it's a 6-month process that we're going to be taking these organizations through. And that isn't just selling cloud. It's about creating a solution, helping them market the solution, helping to put it into the marketplace, help them to get bigger opportunities. So we're actually partnering with global systems integrators as well as government entities that want to partner with companies that are what we call ready to go. So our accelerator isn't just about teaching them how to sell their products online. It's not just getting them up to speed on the Microsoft technology or the Microsoft ecosystem. It's actually preparing that organization so that when these big global companies close humongous opportunities, they don't have to go out and try to source consultants, source companies to help them. We have a bench that's already been trained in their methodology, trained in their way, ready to go. So we think it's a win-win situation, not just for the African-American firm, but we think it's a great win-win situation for mentors, for our big global partners, as well as for the inner city communities, because we're giving back to the inner cities. I just think it's a phenomenal opportunity what we're building at BCPA. And I will tell you, it became because of 2 groups. Justin Slago at Microsoft, Eddie, you and Iamcp. You guys really said, look, something's going on this past year, and you guys need to do something about it. You guys are African American. What are you thinking about it? And we said, hey, we should do something. And instead of just saying we should do something, we actually did it. So I would say it was a lot of encouragement from multiple people in order to make this big vision come into reality. And so I'm very grateful. If it wasn't for that push, I don't think we would have actually implemented and started this nonprofit.
Yeah, I remember being on a call with you and a few others on a Sunday afternoon. You had sent a text message out, and I'm like, yeah, we got to do something about this. And so we threw a meeting on the calendar last minute. We started talking, and I think, I'm just super impressed with the work that you and Frank and Ash and Lauren have done. And, there's been a lot of support throughout the ecosystem. Companies like Microsoft and others really stepping up. But when it's all said and done, somebody actually has to want to get this done, right? And that's a big lift. And I applaud you all and for all the people that have joined in the effort. I think it's amazing. I'm just super excited to see how successful you are in the years to come. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Couldn't be where we are right at this moment without you and the rest of the team. I would tell you the founding members are all Iamcp members. So it's a good thing, right? This community that we have, this family that we have. Not only are we helping each other, as I said in the very beginning, I love the fact that we help grow each other's businesses, but we see what's happening in our society today, and we want to do something about it. And I really appreciate the fact that we've all pushed each other to do something about it.
I have a question that's a little bit off topic, so maybe
Okay.
if I could, it fits into the BCPA concept. The story begins with a young man in Tanzania who wandered around to find our website. Our website has a chat feature, so he made an inquiry about Microsoft Dynamics AX. So he wanted to learn about Microsoft Dynamics AX with the intent of, at some point being a consultant. The story evolved a little bit in the sense that he has a connection to what I'll call an incubator. So I guess in Tanzania, a government agency charged with simulating, new businesses, and a consulting firm could be along those lines. So the first challenge, I think, was to learn about the software. So in the podcast with Lena Beva, she offered to make a connection with this young man in Tanzania. But it's only part of the story. The other part of the story is, okay, once you know something about the software and are able to do something, then what? And to form a consultancy requires all kinds of other skills, finance and sales and marketing, how to manage human resources and so forth. So it's a daunting challenge. One of the things that occurs to me is that your cohorts are actually being trained to do some of that. So I guess my question might be first, if you had a little bit of advice to give to a young university student in Tanzania who was interested in forming a consultancy, what would you tell him?
First thing, join Iamcp. And I only say that it doesn't have to be Iamcp. The first thing you need to do is join a group or an association. And the reason why that's important, and I know a lot of people don't like that idea, because joining association groups sometimes costs money. But when you think about accelerating your learning curve, it's all about accelerating your learning curve so that you can go to market, so that you can be in a position to run your own company. You need to join a group of other individuals who are doing the same thing or have been successful. It doesn't have to be Iamcp. That would be my first choice. But you can join any group, any association that has the same vision and path that you want to go to. That's the very first advice I would tell anybody to do. From there, you would get a lot of people who are what I call seasoned veterans, who can assist you with finding grants, finding opportunities, connecting with bigger organizations such as Microsoft, who have programs for individuals such as yourself. These are things you would never get on your own, because the shortest distance between two paths is a straight line. And if you can get to that path faster because there's other individuals that's going to pull you there because of their connections and who they know, why not do that? Why not go down that path? And so that's exactly what BCPA is doing with our cohorts. That's exactly what Iamcp is trying to do with our P2P program and the niches we have. This individual should do the same thing. If you try to figure it out on your own, you might get there. It may take 20, 30, 40 years, but it could take 2 or 3 years if you do it a different route, which is go through an association, go through a group where there are like-minded individuals who can mentor you, who can guide you and help you.
Really good advice. Thank you.
Danny, I have a question on the previous thing which you talked about, the learning, the speaking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking thing. So people say that is one of the most scary thing for everybody to do. And but at the same time, it has benefits. So how did you get started? But what advice you have? And I think from my side, I would say Toastmaster is the best one. Even like removing and is such a big one, and getting comfortable with the pause is not easy, but if you come, it becomes more pleasant to talk, or at least you have better confidence on and your control on the nerves, right? So first thing is, why should people do public speaking? And if they are not going for Toastmaster or any of the group, what advice you have?
Well, the first thing I'd like to tell people is that when you think about public speaking, it's not just for individuals who are motivational speakers. It's not just for individuals who get in front of a stage and audience and have a specific topic they need to talk about. It's for everyone. If you're in a situation where you're a Cub Scout leader, if you're in a situation where you're a den leader, or you're in a situation where you're a parent-teacher association leader, you're always going to be in front of somebody. And that may be a good opportunity to learn how to project your voice. When you project your voice in a specific way, people look at you and they say you have confidence. People look at you and they think, I don't know what you're saying right now, but you sound like a great leader. I'm going to trust you. I believe in you. I'm going to follow you. That just projecting your voice, learning how to articulate effectively. People don't realize when you say you know all the time. Well, you know what? I don't know. That's why I'm going to you as a speaker. That's why I want you to tell me I don't know. Stop saying you know, or ands or ums, because it makes me feel as the audience that you're not confident in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Public speaking isn't just about being in front of people. It is for everyday life. When I'm with my children's friends and they have their parents as well over, my kids are looking to me to be a positive example to their friends' parents. And I need to look good when I present myself. How do I shake hands? Is it firm? Is it positive? Does it make me look like a great father? Does it make me look authoritative? Does it make me look strong? Kids see that. You may never notice, but kids look at their parents every day. Every nuance that you do, they are watching it and they're imitating it. So my daughter, when she sees how I interact with people, she's imitating that. So when it's a whole bunch of her friends, her girlfriends, 5 minutes later, you can tell who's the leader of that pact. I didn't tell my daughter to be the leader. She just knows how to run a team, how to run a group, just from the interaction with mom and dad. When it comes to learning, Toastmasters, as you stated, great program. It is international. They have yearly competitions. They put together a methodology, and that methodology works. My identical twin brother and I, his company is called DSB Leadership Group. He has a public speaking class. He also has a sales training program, all done online. And what you'll notice that through his program, there's a lot of repetition. Why? We are creatures of habits. If we do not do something on a continuous basis, a minimum of 3 weeks, some people say 60 days, it will not become a habit. And one of the things I love about Toastmasters and everything that you do, even Alcoholics Anonymous and any other program, is that they teach you a method. You get up, you introduce yourself, you go through the steps, you say what the steps are, and you think it's boring. But the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature. Right. And that's one of the things that my twin brother teaches in his program. And I will tell you, it is a great program. All the BCBA board members, they get the program for free, just for being a board member. And as you go from day one to the end of the program, you can see yourself change. It may not be by voice, but it could be by body language. People look at you, you're standing up more. You're smiling more. Your face is up more. You're not droopy. Just the body language is the number one thing you need to work on. It's not just speaking, your body language. If you're not standing up straight, you can't get air in. If you don't get air in to your lungs, then you're coming at a high-pitched voice, or you're going to be bending over and your voice is going to go straight down. There's all these little steps are important. So public speaking isn't just for CEOs of organizations. It's not just for presidents of their own companies, like the three of you guys are, or the president of the Iamcp. It is for every single person, including children.
Excellent. And I like the idea of you mentioning the filler word, every time. I mean, once you go to Toastmaster, you start recognizing these filler word, and it becomes a pain also, but it's fun. Whenever somebody says, exactly same thing, like Danny said, right? No, I don't know. Don't say that to me.
And one of the great things when you, and I'm very happy that you brought that up. We don't know how we sound. We don't know the habits that we have that are good or bad because we don't take the time to watch ourselves or listen to ourselves. We just don't do it. And it is very important that if you're going to speak, record yourself. Not just to hear your voice, not just to hear how many times you say and, but, or but also your facial expression. What are you doing with your hands? And I tell you, public speakers, they don't know what to do with their hands. But we tell you what to do with your hands. So is your hands crossed? Is your shoulders crossed? Are your hands behind your back? And people don't realize just with your hands will tell the audience if you're closed or open to them. Yeah. And there are a lot of nuances that you need in order to grow. And at my company, App Gallup and App Meetup, We train MSPs and we teach them these little nuances.
Wow.
It's a mentorship program. It's helping them to grow their business and helping them to stand out and to look good in the community. Because when you productize, specialize, and verticalize, you can be an expert in that community, not only with other IT individuals, but with your specific ICP, your ideal client profile. They're going to know about you. They're going to hear about you through their peers and through case studies and anything that's happening in and around their area. They're going to come find you. That's what makes selling easier for MSPs.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Is that the primary focus of AppGallop? Is it a training-focused organization, or is there something else to it?
That's a great question, Brian. So AppGallop is an enterprise organization. We sell enterprise software. It allows telecom providers, large organizations to become a cloud distributor. You're able to sell any cloud platform, Oracle, AWS, Google, and Microsoft, into a single screen. It integrates with your CRM system and your ERP system. And it also allows you to sell your own private SKUs, all on one dashboard. It is a channel management platform as well. So that's what AppGallop is. If you want to have your own channels, you want to be able to sell multiple products from multiple different vendors, and you want to create your own price book and then have people sign up and buy that particular product, you can do that through that one AppGallop platform. AppMeetup leverages the AppGallop platform. So we are using AppGallop platform in AppMeetup. So we have our own marketplace. AppMeetup is a SaaS cloud distributor as well, but primarily AppMeetup is more about MSP mentoring. We're going to teach that MSP how to grow his or her organization through a 5-step program. You get through step 4, you're selling at $300 per user per month. You get to step 5, you're at $500 per user per month. And what we do is we teach you along the way how to look at your business, how to understand why you should sell subscription-based services more than just one-time services, one-time products, one-time projects, why you should specialize, verticalize, and productize, why you should look at P2P, how you can look at your finances, your books, and determine when you should hire somebody. I mean, we had an MSP that hired 3 people. And the first question I asked is, what did your book say? Well, what do you mean? We just closed a contract, another customer, $3,000 additional MRR. Does that mean you can hire 3 full-time people? So we teach MSPs how to look at the annual return of revenue, how to project 12, 24, 36-month growth, and then that gives them the insight on when they should hire somebody. And when you hire somebody, you should hire at the level that you expect them to be, not at an entry level, and then you have to take time out of your hands to train them. We're teaching MSP owners how to be true owners. You hire somebody who's smart, let them do the job. This is what Henry Ford did. He said, I didn't have to be the smartest person in the room. I just hired the smartest people and trust them to do their job. And a lot of times, owners have a hard time breaking through the $1 million barrier because they have a hard time letting go. And so our 5-step process is about mentoring them, teaching them to get to a point where they can do that. So that's the difference between AppGallop and AppMeetup. AppMeetup leverages the AppGallop platform. We have a marketplace. We sell multiple products. And we actually have about 20 products in our marketplace that are products of Iamcp members. It's something I told Eddie about. So you'll see that other MSPs will buy these products. They're actually buying products from other Iamcp members in our marketplace. And why is that important? You may be an Iamcp member who does very well in a specific vertical, specific product, but yet you created services. You created a sales methodology behind the services that you can scale. And why not sell it to other MSPs? And so along our way, we talk about multiple revenue streams. You get one revenue stream from subscription basis, that services that you offer. You get another revenue stream from the P2P initiative, because if you get a lead or something that you don't do, you give it to another member who does the work, who specializes, who you can trust and do the job well. That's the second revenue stream. And you get a third revenue stream by taking what you do really well because you're verticalized and productized, and then you white label it and sell it to other MSPs. Now you have 3 revenue streams coming in. You're not worried if your biggest customer leaves. You're not going to go under. You're not going to be negative. You're not going to have debt. And that's a big mind shift change from the traditional MSP and how he or she runs their business today.
All good advice. Thank you.
So Danny, I kind of want to shift back to maybe a little bit more personal stuff. You have daughters, is that true?
That is true. I have 2 girls.
And when you look at our industry, tech industry, we know that women are underrepresented in the tech industry. We know that minorities are underrepresented in the industry. When they look at you and when you talk to them, I mean, I know they're young right now, but how do you approach them? How do you set them up for future success and help them understand that they can do anything, regardless of who's where right now, that it's a blank canvas that they can paint their own picture the way they want to. I just wanted to understand what that's like for you as a father.
That's a great question, Eddie. So there's two things that we do in the house and one thing that we do externally. And one of the things that we do externally is we introduce very prominent women who are leaders in the marketplace to our daughters. For example, when we had our quarterly partner briefing, I would tell my daughters that, look, Daddy's going to be a sponsor at this event, but there's these two women I want you to make sure you pay attention to. One was Gabriella Schuster, and the other one was Karen Fazio. And the reason why is that I wanted them to see that it doesn't matter who you are. If you're excellent in your field, people will respect you and they will follow you because you have something that they want, which is inspiration. And so it's been great. And then lately with Lonnie coming on board, Sherlander coming on board and helping BCPA, I had a chance to introduce my daughters to her as well. And so now they're able to see that. That's number one, that's outside. Inside the house, we do two things. Every day, we have what we call the daily affirmation for my daughters. And the first thing we teach them is to love themselves. And I know it sounds funny, but having my daughters look in the mirror every morning and tell themselves, I am beautiful, I am smart, I am intelligent. It seems very basic, but society, commercials, TV, advertising, through magazines, if that individual does not look like them, they're automatically going to start feeling as if they're inferior. And so my job from day one is to make sure that they're not inferior, that they feel that they are beautiful, they're amazing, they can do anything they want because I'm training it in them from day one. The second thing we do internally is my wife is also an entrepreneur. She's a mindset coach. And it makes it a lot easier because this is what she does every day with all her clients. And her clients work at Amazon, they work at Microsoft, and she coaches all of them online. Is that they're able to see their mother as an example of what it means to be an entrepreneur, a business leader, and to be a CEO of her own business. And when we sit down with the girls and say, hey, who do you want to be when you grow up, like daddy or like mommy? They all say, we want to be like mommy because she's the boss. That's what they say. We want to be like mommy because she is the boss. Now, they're only 6 and 10, but we teach it to them every single day. And if you ask my two daughters right now and they walk into the room, they'll tell you, we want to be like mommy because she's the boss.
That's awesome. I love those things that you're doing, the one outside and the two inside. And I agree. The daily affirmation, we get a lot of negative messaging. If you don't conform to this, whatever it is, then you're not, part of the group or the in group, right? And I think it's great that you're taking a proactive approach to that. It warms my heart to hear that. I can see you all like in the morning going through these activities together. That's pretty cool. Thank you
because I
for
won't let
sharing
them get away with just saying it, I am, in a boring way. They have to say it with enthusiasm and excitement. I want them to visualize as if what they're saying is true right now. It is, for a little kid, is really hard. So I get them excited and say it really loud, like you mean it. Say it like you mean it. And they look at me, Daddy, you're crazy. But that's what I have to do. When I say, who's the best? The first thing they say is, I'm the best. Now, they don't have to be the best. They've learned over the years, because of school, they don't have to be the best in their class, but they have to do their best. They have to give their best. And when they do and give their best, in their heart and their mind, they are the best. That's the one thing I'm trying to teach them, not to make sure they don't achieve perfection, but to try to be perfect. You don't have to achieve it. You have to try to be it. Because if you don't have high goals, you're not going to push yourself. And it's really weird to say that all the time, but I can take my two daughters and I just go meet a whole bunch of friends. I can let them be by themselves. And they can carry on a conversation with a grown adult. They know when they look at an adult, you look at the adult in their eyes and you shake their hand and introduce yourself. And maybe that's my military background, but they do that every time they meet a new adult the first time. I say, yes, go talk to that individual adult. They'll say, hi, my name is this. It's a pleasure to meet you. And that's the first thing they say, because I want to teach them not to be afraid. Be bold. It doesn't matter if the person's bigger than you because they're twice your height, or they're an authoritative figure because they're a parent. You need to go and introduce yourself and be positive about it, be confident about it, be bold. And I would tell you that's one of the weirdest things people hear me say until they see my daughters do it.
That is so cool. I really like that a lot. And it gives them confidence, right? You know, who wouldn't they be able to go up with? When you grow up around adults, or you carry yourself in a mature way, that only serves you better, down the road. So wonderful. I think that's just amazing.
I would say you two are asking some amazing questions. These are not scripted questions, in case anybody would like to know. These are more questions from the heart, questions that we all kind of know each other already. We've been around each other for many years, but I would tell you I'm very impressed by the heart questions. These are the questions that you're asking that are personal. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Danny. And thanks for sharing. I mean, I just think, it's wonderful what you're doing. Like I said, just thinking about you and your wife with your daughters, that's really cool. It's just super fantastic. So those are good stories to share and inspiration for others too, for sure.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So Danny, what does an ideal partnership look like for you?
That's a great question, Eric. For App Meetup, an ideal partner is an individual who understands where they're at today and where they want to be in the future. And I say that because a lot of people have these goals or dreams to be at a certain size or to do certain things, but they have to be at a position where they realize partnerships are key for their business growth. So my ideal partner is the ones who realize having partnerships is ideal for their business. That's number one. So if they have that mindset, that's going to be excellent for me. There are a lot of people who talk about the idea of being a partner, but they don't really want to do the work or really see the benefit. It's just a lot of talk. So that's not my ideal partner. My ideal partner is one who, first of all, believes partnership is crucial and key to their business growth. Number two, who is an advocate for you and your company. A lot of people say, hey, look, if you hear of XYZ, send them my way. No, that's not an advocate. An advocate is passionate about your company. I remember, for example, Eric, when I was at SureWeb and we were building out a dynamics practice, I said, you guys need to go talk to Eric Klaus. Go talk to that guy right there. And I remember I introduced you to all the people over there. I remember when Reza and Eddie at Eddie's company, and when he was getting started with Oscar, I said, look, you need to grow with SureWeb, and here's the reasons why. And so I felt good about these individuals. I feel good about their character. I feel good about what they're trying to do and how they're growing their business. I feel like I want to tell people about it. You don't have to pay me to tell people about it. The fact that we have a partnership and you will pay me, that's a blessing, but you don't have to. And so my ideal partner is ones who believe in what I'm doing as an individual business leader and who believes in my products and what I'm doing as a company. And then they're excited to tell people about it as well. So that is the way I like to look at the ideal partner for me. And I'm hoping that they see me the same way, where I'm their ideal partner too, because I like to evangelize them. Even I think it was Eddie and I were speaking about one of my former clients in Manhattan Beach, who was looking at backup and recovery and looking at different appliances. I said, you need to talk to Eddie. All right, you need to talk to him. He can set you up with your whole wireless system, your whole backup recovery system. You need to go talk to Eddie. It was just one of the things that I felt comfortable about. And that's the way I like to look at it, Eric. I hope that answers your question.
No, that was great. I guess, one of the things that we talk about frequently, and Brian and I have these conversations on a recurring basis, is trust is transferable. So I'm curious, what does trust mean for you in the context of those partnering relationships?
The way I like to look at it is, if my customer is with you, I don't have to check in every day. I don't have to call them behind your back. I don't have to call you behind their back. I believe that once I made the introduction, I can go sit down on the beach and drink a Mai Tai. I don't need to worry about anything because that's how much I trust you. That's what trust means to me. It's not, I don't have to be involved. I don't have to be engaged. I don't have to be on every conference call. I know that from beginning to end, When I talk to my friend or talk to my customer I referred over to you, 10 years from now, 2 years from now, 2 months from now, they're going to tell me that was the best introduction and the best partnership I can ever had. Thank you very much, Danny. That is what I mean by trust.
So what do let me take it a little bit different direction. How do you build that? How does that come to pass? Because that's not just hey, I found your website, or I looked you up and you have great Yelp reviews.
Yeah, that's a great question, Eric. I like to try to find something to bridge the gap. So when I look at internally or externally, one thing I tell people who are doing sales is look at LinkedIn profiles, look at in-depth profiles, find out about this individual inside and out, not just the title, not the name of the company. Find out if there's a person that works at the company that you're friends with. You can say, hey, John or Sally from XYD accounting department and I are great friends. He recommended that I speak with you. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're trying to sell me. I know nothing about you or your agenda. But yeah, I know that person in the accounting department. That person's a pretty cool guy. If he told you to talk to me, I'll give you 5 minutes. That's bridging the gap of trust. In my business, the way I look at it is the same way. Did an individual introduce me to you? Or did something about you tie in with me through either BCPA, Iamcp, or something? I will tell you that the partners that I brought on board in my marketplace, the fact that they just said they were Iamcp members was good enough for me, because that helped bridge the gap of trust. Now that they're in my system, we've got an opportunity to get to know each other, perfect our relationship, grow it, and make it even stronger. But it had to take something to bridge the gap. I don't just say, let's be best friends. It just doesn't happen. Like I talked to Frank in our company, Frank Valdiviesto, can't even pronounce his last name. But outside of being an Iamcp member, former D&I chair, being a BCBA co-founder, if you look at his background, you'll see his golf clubs. He has pink golf clubs, right? He likes to play golf. I like to play golf. You don't meet many African Americans who like to play golf. We automatically started becoming friends just because of that, which is kind of great. I love playing golf as well. And yes, I blame Tiger Woods. He got me involved, but at the end of the day, that was what helped bridge the gap. Iamcp, his love for golf, our love for the community. He does a lot of work for the nonprofit community. I do a lot of work for the nonprofit community. And the fact that we're working for a nonprofit and starting a nonprofit, it only made our relationship stronger.
All right, Eddie, Brian, got any more questions for Danny? I know we're a little over an hour here, so.
Yeah, I'll ask you this. I'm going to ask you to do a quasi-financial exercise, not really a financial exercise, but people think of it as a financial exercise. So I want you to look at App Gallup and App Meetup, and then I want you to look at BCPA, and I want you to project where they're going to be in 2 years from now, and what would you define as success at the end of those 2 years for each of those organizations?
That's a great question, Eddie. Let me work backwards. So for BCPA, what I see as success in 2 years, even though we have a 3-year goal, is that we'll be more than 2/3 of the way towards completing our mission, which is not only getting 100 partners through our system, through the mentorship program, the accelerated program. It's actually having 650, 700 digital transformation projects completed in the inner city communities. I want to see the inner city communities develop. There's a lot of nonprofits that do good work in the inner cities, but they need help. They need to understand what is Dynamics. They don't have a CRM. They need to understand what Microsoft 365 is, because they probably just got their first computers, or they have a computer, but they don't know how to get on the internet. They don't understand anything about the cloud. So we want to help those individuals because they're giving back to the community themselves. So in 2 years, I see BCPA being successful when we've done 2/3 of our cohorts have gone through our mentorship program, our accelerated program, where 650 digital transformation projects have been completed or in the process of being completed. And we have about 400 people that have been hired in the tech field. That is what I see as success in BCPA. For App Gallup, what I see for success in App Gallup is more people, more organizations globally adapting our platform. We compete with big companies. global companies. We compete with Ingram Micro Cloud Blue as a company that we compete with. And I believe that we're simpler, easier to use. So not only getting more companies off of Ingram Micro Cloud Blue onto AppGallop platform, but having more individuals speak about it and talk about it. It's because we're a white label solution that people don't know us as well. I would tell you that 2 of Iamcp sponsors are on AppGallop's platform. You don't know that because it's white label. And one of the difficult things about running an organization that's white label, it's very difficult for people to know who you are and what you are. So in 2 years, I want companies to know who we are. And that means doing more work in branding, doing more work on having video conferencing features, whatever it takes so that people can see us more. I like to have that completed. And that when they think about having a e-commerce store, having the ability to sell multi-cloud, hybrid cloud solutions from all the major cloud vendors, I want them to think about AppGallop first. And then for App Meetup, I would like to see 1,000 MSPs get to stage 4 within our 5-step process, where they're consistently hitting $300 per user per month. Not thinking about having an MSP as a luxury style business, but an MSP being a corporation, a real big company. I tell you how many MSPs I've met. Well, maybe I'll add another person here or another contract there because I want to buy a new car. I want to buy a new Jeep. No, I don't want a luxury style business. I want you to think about your company as being a corporation where you can acquire other MSPs or sell your MSP for a multiple between 7 and 10x. That is my vision, to get 1,000 partners at stage 4. And the second vision is to be the first Black cloud distributor in North America. I want to be the first African-American cloud distributor for Microsoft, for AWS, and for Google in North America. That is my ambition in 2 years that will happen.
We will pop the champagne bottles when that happens, my friend, and it will. I will fly over to you, and we will have that together. That would be awesome. That's exciting. Those are great goals.
They're lofty goals, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, gentlemen, I know that we are past the hour, but I would tell you I'm very honored. I'm very blessed to be part of your podcast. I'm very grateful. Each of you are business leaders. You own your own company. You run your own business. And I admire you for being able to do that and give back to the community as leaders in Iamcp as well. So you've set a great example. You guys have been great leaders, great mentors for other business leaders such as myself. And the fact that you invited me to your show is something I would never forget. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Danny. We certainly appreciate it. First off, you and I need to have a conversation offline around nonprofit work, because we're already working with Frank and would love to work with you on nonprofits, especially around dynamics, and we can have a whole conversation around that. If our listeners are interested in learning more about what you're doing, how can they connect with you?
First of all, you can go to our LinkedIn page or our Facebook page. You can also contact me, Danny, at appmeetup.com. If you're interested in learning more about my twin brother and myself, you can follow us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, many other of the podcast platforms called Twins Talk It Up.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I think that will do it for this episode of the True Stories in Tech podcast. I'm Eric Klaus, along with our regular contributors, Manish Bhartia, president of Think AI Consulting, Brian Enuma, president of Strategic Systems Group, Eddie Bader, COO of Aegis Innovators, and our special guest today, Danny Brown, president of App Meetup. Thank you for listening to the True Stories in Tech podcast. Please join us next week for more True Stories in Tech.